Okay, so it says Max and Carl are playing video game. Max has 14 points and Carl has 56 points. How many times the number of points Max has is the number of points Carl has? So it's saying what times Max, which is 14, equals 56. And you got to look back and say, okay, well, I would divide both sides by 14. So 56 divided by 14 is going to be 4. So how many times the number of points Max has is the number of points Carl has? It's 14 times 4, and that does equal 56. So it's 4 times. Next question. What is the missing term in the ratios? What do we have to do to 11 to make it 99? We're going to times it by 9. Whatever you do to one, you have to do to the other. 6 times 9 is 54. What is the missing term in the equivalent ratios? So what are you doing to 15 to make it 3? We're dividing by 5. Dividing by 5. Therefore, the missing ratio equals 7. Compare the lengths of the segments below. Then write a ratio that compares the length of the longer segment to the length of the shorter segment. Okay, the way this one works out is compare the lengths. We would say 8 units is greater than 6 units. And then it says write a ratio that compares the length of the longer segment to the length of the shorter. It would be 8 to 6. And then I would probably reduce it down to 4/3. Next question. Are the ratios represented in the diagram equivalent? Explain your answer. So you're going to have to listen on this one. So I'm going to look at it and it says 1, 2, 3 triangles, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I know that I'm timesing this by 2 to get 6. So whatever you do to the top ratio, you have to do to the bottom portion of the ratio. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4 times that by 2. I should have 8 blocks on the bottom. Do we 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, I'm not going to write out the explanation, but you should say that they are equivalent ratios because there are exactly twice as many in diagram 2 as there are in diagram 1. And if you want to phrase it your own way, go ahead. Are the ratios 4 to 5 and 16 to 30 equivalent? So what we do is we set them equivalent to each other. What do we have to do to this 4 to make it a 16? We times it by 4. What is 5 times 4? It is 20. So you would say, no, they are not equivalent because when I multiplied 4 by 4 and got 16, 5 times 4 is not 30. Or you could have done 5 times 6. So the numerator would have been 24. Are the ratios 3/8 and 24/9 equivalent? Explain your answer. I would have looked right at this and said, no, they're not equivalent because 3/8 is a fraction, 24/9 is a improper fraction. But if you really wanted to do it out, 3 times 8 is 24, 8 times 8 is 64. No, they cannot be equivalent. Number 5, use division to find all the whole number ratios of 32/64. The way that I usually do this is I just start off by dividing by 2. So 32 divided by 2 is going to be 16/32. Then I look at it and I say, can I divide 32 by 3? No. Can I divide 32 by 4? Yep. And I get 8. Can I divide 64 by 4? Yep. I get 16. Then, can I divide by 5? No. Can I divide by 6? No. Can I divide by 7? No. Can I divide by 8? Absolutely. 32 divided by 8 is going to be 4. And 64 divided by 8 is 8. Then I'd look at it one more time and I would say, can I divide by 32? Yes, I can. So that's going to be 32 goes into 32 once, and 32 goes into 64 twice. There are bran and blueberry muffins in a container. The table shows the number of each type of muffin in given numbers of containers. Complete the table. Okay, I'd look right at this and I would say, okay, I have consistency right through here. So I know that I am timesing this by 4 to get to the 8. So I would probably take this number and times it by 4, and I get 4. And then I look here and I say, well, I need to multiply by 4, and I get 12. Now I need to look to see what we're doing here. What am I doing to this 2 to make it a 4? I'm multiplying it by 2. So I put a little times 2 there to remind me. And I put a little times 2 there, and I look all the way back. Does that check off? 1 times 2 is 2. And last but not least, go 3 times 2 is 6. Jimmy is making salsa in a factory with peppers and a ratio of 5 to 2. If the total volume of salsa Jimmy makes is 420 cups, find the volume of tomatoes Jimmy uses. Draw a model to help you. I'm going to pause this and put my model up. Okay, because it says that the total volume of the salsa is 420, I know that this whole model must equal 420. It says find the volume of the tomatoes Jimmy uses. So we have to figure it out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 pieces into 420. That means that 420 divided by 7 is 60 per piece. So this is 60, 60, 60, 60, and 60. So the tomatoes are worth 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times 60 is 300. And just because it's fun, the peppers would equal 60 plus 60 is 120. If Jimmy uses 120 cups of tomatoes, how many cups of peppers does he use? So this is going to be the exact same model, but then we have to put in and substitute a different value of the number of tomatoes. And I'm going to pause it. So it says that if Jimmy uses 120 cups of tomatoes, so we know that this is equal to 120. I'm apologizing because my pen stopped working a second ago. How many peppers does he have? We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 going into 120. So I'm going to divide that out. So my pen really has quit working on me, so I'm going to just apologize ahead of time. But this one would be 120 divided by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So what we would get would be 120 divided by 5, and that equals 24. So we know that each one of those bubbles is worth 24. So we have 1 bubble, 2 bubbles, so that would be 48 if every one of them is worth 24. So again, we'd have 48 cups of peppers. Next question. It says the ratio of the number of books Amy has to the number of books Raquel has is 3 to 5. The ratio of the number of books Raquel has to the number of books Annie has is 10 to 11. If you know that there are 162 books altogether, how many books does each girl have? I'm going to do my model right now. Okay, so I started off my model by doing 2 separate ones. I have Amy and Raquel, and that's the first ratio, which is 3 to 5, and then I have the Raquel and Annie on the bottom, which is 10 to 11. I know that I can make all of this the same if I double up Raquel up here, because she has 5 here and then 10 here. So I would have to double up Amy, and that would make the whole entire model equivalent, and I could get rid of the rest of this. Okay, now we know that there's 162 books, so I would set this whole model up to 162. And then I would total everything up and figure out how many different bubbles there were. So as I counted, there's 27 different bubbles here. It says if you know that you have 162 books altogether, how many books does each girl have? Well, we take 162 and we divided it by 27, and that actually comes out to be 6. So that means each one of those little bubbles is worth 6. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times 6 equals 36. Then we have 10 times 6 is going to equal 60. Again, I apologize, my pen's not working. I'm using a mouse right now. And then we have 11 times 6, which is 66. And if you total them all up, that comes out to be 162. So Amy had 36, Raquel had 60, Annie had 66. Next question. The ratio of the number of quarters to the number of dimes Nick has is 5 to 6. He gets 5 more quarters, and the ratio changes to 11 to 12. How many dimes does Nick have? We're not doing that one. We're not doing that one.